What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to Not Another Business Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Zachary. And today's episode is going to be a pretty simple, short and sweet and quick to the point episode. And I would like to really talk about this general topic as it pertains to you listening and to anyone out there that has something going on, who's doing something in general, or who has friends, who has people in their surroundings. As you know, they always say surround yourself with positive people and positivity will surround you, or surround yourself with good people and good will come to you. You are who you hang out with. Now, all of those things are very true, and the important thing and one of the important reasons why that needs to be the case in your friendships and your surroundings is because you need to be able to have someone that's gonna give you a pat on the back and give you a kudos here and there and let you know when you are doing good, and also, as important, when you are doing bad as well. But I'm going to focus today on the complimenting part of it, the kudos part of it. Now, you need to have a friend, or you need to have friends in your circle who will call you out and say, hey, by the way, good job on that. You did good. I'm so proud of you. You're doing really good. And I know that sometimes it's not something that comes as easy for some of us. At the same time, the people that are around us, the people who are in our circle, they need to be reminded whether or not they're doing good. Because sometimes you never know what people are going through, and that little bit of a good job with whatever it is that they're doing could mean the world to them. It could mean that they actually can take a step back and say, I'm happy to hear that I'm actually doing good. An example for me is like when I started the podcast, when I wanted to start the podcast, when I released the preview or whatever, all of those reasons. Once I did it, it was like, shoot, I got into this moment where I was kind of waiting to hear, or waiting for myself waiting for my inner voice to convince me that this was a terrible idea. Because that's ultimately what you end up doing. You're not necessarily waiting for people to say, hey, this thing you just did is horrible. You should never do such a thing. You're ultimately waiting to convince yourself that this was a horrible idea, because 90% of the time, the haters are not gonna come out on the first launch or on the first go of it, right? The haters are the people who are going to really critique everything bad about what you're doing are going to be silent, because they appreciate that you're at a failure level, right? They appreciate that you're at a failure level because when you first release something, no one is engaging with it, no one knows about it, so no one is paying attention to you. So they're happy to see that. But around that time now, this is when it's really crucial, because that's when your inner voices start telling you like, well, if you didn't go viral within the first week, that means you're not good. That means you're terrible. That means no one liked this. That means no one is receiving this the way you thought. So therefore you should stop. You should give up. And this is why it's important to have a friend next to you, or someone that you know, someone who knows you, that can come to you at that time when you least expect it and say, good job, or hey, I appreciate your fearlessness and I appreciate your initiative for making this thing happen, because I know how much of a tough decision that must have been for you to do that. So compliment your friends and anything that they're doing too. So sometimes it doesn't have to be anything major. And obviously we're not perfect. None of us are perfect. I'm working on that myself. And I know as a friend, when I receive it from my friends, I feel good about it. When I hear that, hey, you're doing good at this, you're doing good at that, whatever. Like even at work, like you want to be reminded while you're at work that you're doing a good job at work, right? And you want to be reminded when you are in any type of situation, like even as a player, if you're in sports and all that kind of stuff, even if you're in the gym, you want to walk in the gym and then somebody's like, you're looking good. You want your trainer to tell you you're looking good, you're doing good, keep at it. You want those things. You want to hear those things. It helps us keep going. I don't care who you are. That motivation does not go all the way. That little motivation and determination that you get every day or whatever, it doesn't stick around the whole time. So sometimes you need somebody to be able to tell you you're doing good in order for you to keep going. It is important to have such a thing. It is important to have such person in your life. It is important to be able to have these conversations with people and be able to communicate with someone and be able to receive feedback. Be mindful also that by opening yourself to feedback, sometimes you have to be willing to receive the negative and the positive comments, because there's no plus without a negative. There's no positive without a negative. There's no plus without a minus. So if someone is coming to you and saying, someone is not always going to come to you and say, hey, you're doing everything great. One day someone is going to come to you and say, hey, you're doing everything great. There is this one thing I think could be better if you are open to that. Or someone could say, hey, I think this thing could be better, but if you make this little change, you could be even better. Now, depending on who you're receiving that from, because that itself, feedback sometimes can come from a place of animosity. Feedback can come from someone who really don't want to boost your confidence. They really want you to remain where you are. They really want you to feel the fear inside of you that says like you're actually not able to achieve great things. So you have to be careful with how you're receiving that and who you're receiving that from, without causing any type of back and forth and any kind of argument. We have to compliment one another. We're so focused nowadays on what other people are doing sometimes, and even you see this online when you go on social media, what people are doing a lot of times, like pointing fingers and accusing and doing all these things like so-and-so suck. So-and-so is not good at what they do. And this could be someone that's been doing that same thing for the last 15, 20 years. I think we can all agree at this point that this person is really good at what they do. This person is human, of course, and can have a bad day, a bad night, or when someone kind of go online and they bash somebody and then so-and-so is terrible, whatever, like, and then we start to focus mainly on these people. We always giving them a piece of our mind, which a lot of it is not, no one asks you for it. So throw that out there too. I've never seen anyone sitting there and asking for a LeBron James sucks comment from people. It's just volunteered information no one gives a crap about. And no one can actually sit there and say that, yes, he does. So in the end, you're really just chatting. Meanwhile, you have your good friend, your good buddy who's been playing and who's been working out extra hard in the gym and been winning competitions and winning getting cups and championships everywhere that he goes or she goes. But you have never once sat down and say, I admire your hustle. I admire your talent. You inspire me to become this driven in my journey. You're too focused on letting people know how you feel like Tom Brady is a horrible quarterback, and you're not focusing on the people who are in your life, your friends, your family, who are doing good in life. So it's time for all of us to really work on that. We have to I might even set up a reminder on my phone every week or so to promote someone and give someone a shout out, or stay away from the social media and call that person and give them a shout out personally, or maybe do both. You know, I started doing that with my podcast guests, where before if I'm doing an episode with a guest, and usually with my guests in general, so far at least, I've always kind of given them enough shout out, like on my social media and stuff like that. And that's gonna be the plan for this podcast. Whenever I'm releasing an episode with the guest, I will have them. I would basically take over their promotional side of things, and really shout them out, not only personally, but not only in person but online as well. So I will be taking that initiative to do it, not just for my podcast guests either. I have plenty of people I know who's been doing great things. I just had a conversation earlier with my friend Steven, who's in the mortgage business now, and I'm gonna make sure I call him up and say, yo, listen, by the way, I'm proud of you. I'm gonna make sure I tell him that, because I remember when we first had a conversation regarding real estate. This was in 2017, and 5 years later, he is in the business. He's doing a lot of these things that we talked about 5 years ago. Those are my favorite type of people to know. First of all, because if we talk about something and you show me later on that you into this, you're doing it, listen, you're my favorite person. Just as an example. So if you have a friend who's been helping you with something, it could be simply getting a job. It could be researching something. It could be a homework. It could be getting into school. It could be managing your debt or whatever it is. You have to remind yourself to take that moment and say, good job. I appreciate your help. You did good, or you're doing good. So this weekend, these next couple of days, make sure you reach out to a friend and you compliment them on something that they're doing currently, or something that they've done in the past and that you appreciated and valued. Let them know that you truly are proud of them. Let them know that they inspire you in one way, shape, or form. Let them know that you truly, deeply are actually proud of what they've accomplished, and that they are doing the right thing and that they're doing good. And with that, this was another episode of Not Another Business Podcast. This was episode 11. Compliment your friends. Until next time.